There are 3 Phantom Troop members that I believe can beat Hisoka one-on-one. Hello and welcome back to Suck War Central. My name is CJ, and for all the talking I've done about the Phantom Troop and Hisoka and their feud and what they can do and what they can't do and their strengths and weaknesses, I seem to have neglected the big topic on everyone's minds, how they actually do against each other. See, the spiders are on a crusade to put down the clown, but is that even an achievable goal for them in the first place? Not all spiders are created equal, but the thing about Hunter x Hunter is that matchup and tactical acumen are a hell of a lot more important than raw power when it comes to figuring out who beats who. So today, we're gonna take a look at every single living Phantom Troop member and figure out whose York New fortunes are about to come true, and who can actually put belt to ass against the Mephistopheles of Heaven's Arena. Before we get going, it's important to establish some sort of methodology. See, assessing the spiders individually isn't exactly the most accurate way to go about this, seeing as some of them are sticking together, at least until literally anything happens and sends them on a wild goose chase of a side quest like, guys, come on, you're gonna fucking die, you can't be splitting up when Hisoka's on the prowl. But logistically, there's no other way to do it, because we have no idea what circumstances they'll be in when Hisoka encounters them. I mean, what am I supposed to do? Assess them all as a group and individually? I mean, this video would be 6 hours, and I know you guys would like that, but I do not have time. I need to talk about other things or I get bored. So, as a compromise, I've decided to put them on, you guessed it, a tier list for how many Hisokas I think they could defeat. You'll notice it's in increments of 0.2 because, most of them really can't hack it and would need to work as a team to have anything resembling a shot at victory. So, let's start with Bonolenov. Yeah, he's going right here. Bonolenov says it himself. He's a bad matchup for Hisoka. He has to dance, and Hisoka can just coat him in gum and he's dead, yada yada. Really, Bonolenov can only do something against Hisoka if Hisoka can hear his music but can't reach him or run away. So he'd have to be distracted by probably at least 2 other spiders, otherwise Bonolenov is just a sitting duck. Nobunaga, in my opinion, really doesn't fare much better. He also, back in York New, admitted that Hisoka is not a great opponent for him. He doesn't say why, but I have to assume it's because he's entirely reliant on his sword, and with bungee gum, it would be very easy to disarm him. I doubt it could stop his blade, because as anyone who's read One Piece can tell you, cutting or stabbing rubber is the best way to damage it. But with his bungee gum cables, Hisoka can reposition out of range effortlessly and take down Nobunaga from a distance on his own terms. Unless Nobunaga has a teammate to help him corner Hisoka or restrict the guy's mobility somehow, Nobunaga has no chance against the murderous masochist. Plus, there's the issue of his replica sword to talk about. He doesn't even have his best tool available at the moment. Now you're gonna have to really hear me out on this one. I think Franklin could do it. The fact of the matter is, for some inexplicable reason, this guy is really powerful. I mean, his hands are machine guns that can shoot holes in Nen users and chew through Nen beasts like they're nothing. That's crazy for what we've seen in Hunter x Hunter. He's on high alert, fully just standing still and locking in so he can't be snuck up on, waiting for the moment Hisoka dares show his pedophilic posterior, and the second he sees him, open fire. I mean, how's Hisoka supposed to get close to this? And yes, we've seen how Hisoka deals with projectile users before, but Goto's ability is nowhere near the same level as Franklin's weapons of mass destruction here. Catching flying coins is one thing, but there's no way in hell bungee gum can block a higher quantity of punchier bullets made of pure Nen. Hisoka would get torn to ribbons, bungee gum and all. Hisoka's only option here is to trick Franklin like he did Goto. And yes, that's what he does best, but Franklin will be a tougher person to fool like that. As we see in the York New arc from the heated argument between the spiders as to whether or not to rescue Chrollo, Franklin is a very smart guy who can keep his cool even in high pressure situations and think critically in spite of everything going to shit around him. And in situations like this, where all Franklin has to do is keep his cool and blast Hisoka, the advantage is squarely against the deceiver as opposed to the deceived. Oh, and there's one other thing I want to mention. Franklin has some hidden trump card we haven't even seen him use. As the narrator states during York New, all the spiders have an ace in the hole ability in case their opponent knows their regular ability somehow. We've seen some, like Shellnark's autopilot, but we haven't seen Franklin's, so that could end up being hugely important as well. I think those factors make up for the intelligence gap to the point that Hisoka versus Franklin is a relatively even matchup. That said, it is probably one we will not ever see because Hisoka is on tier 1 doing nothing and Franklin is all the way down on tier 5 also having decided to do nothing. So unfortunately for the spiders, one of the 3 most equipped to face Hisoka is the least likely to actually do so. Togashi's a real dick for that one. Feitan is a big fat maybe. Knowing what we know about him, I'd put him in the same class as Nobunaga, being as he is a swordsman who's primed to get his sword yoinked. Yes, he can in theory microwave the Mad Magician into a puddle of ditty slop with Pain Packer, but that requires him to take a beating from Hisoka and survive getting his shit absolutely kicked in. Hisoka's playing for keeps, won't let up, and will probably aim for a throat-slitting kill shot if any of his other fights are anything to go by. With the pace Hisoka moves at, I just don't see him leaving Feitan in any state to charge up our Rising Sun, let alone actually launch it. I mean, the anime sure does make it look like Zazan just spent 5 minutes doing absolutely nothing while Feitan powered up, and while the reality the manga shows us is that it's a way quicker process, it still takes like a second or 2 at least, and a second is a lot in shonen. And on top of all that, can Feitan even activate Rising Sun on the Black Whale? Like, he's not just gonna be boiling civilians here. The 10,000 kiloton truth nuke he has shoved up his ass could pretty much just blow a hole in the ship itself and kill everyone. That said, knowing Feitan, he would probably do it anyway because he's a spiteful little shit, but still, surely Togashi can't let him do that for the sake of the plot. The one saving grace here I'll grant Feitan is that he apparently has different pain packers besides Rising Sun. I'm sure some of them are less dangerous to use on a boat, but more importantly, there is a slim chance that, I don't know, they can be activated instantly, but that's a big maybe, and so I refuse to put Feitan higher than this tier right here. Phinks runs into a similar problem as Bonolenov, in that to use his ability, he needs to move his body crazy style, and Hisoka's bungee gum can put a stop to that. Furthermore, Phinks is a close quarters melee combatant, and that's just about the worst person to be against Hisoka. His bungee gum is most effective at close range and makes it very difficult to actually fight him because while you're just trying to land a punch, Hisoka can bounce you around like a sticky hand until you go splat on the ceiling, also like a sticky hand. However, unlike Bonolenov, there are several factors I believe give our champion of women's rights here a much better shot against the murderous clown. First of all, his ability only requires one hand to work. While Bonolenov has to do an intricate dance with his whole body before he can shove his ball in Hisoka's face, Phinks charges his Hatsu with a simple wind up of his right arm and his right arm only. There's no rule that says he has to just stand there and take a bungee gum facial while he's at it, so I'd more than expect him to dodge and weave through those bungee backshots as he prepares to attack. Furthermore, Phinks' ace in the hole has yet to be revealed, just like Franklin's, and for all we know, it could be something that helps cover his weaknesses the way Shalnark's autopilot helps him in his worst matchups. Between that, his ability to keep his ego in check unlike certain other enhancers from the Phantom Troop, and his overwhelming expertise in hand-to-hand combat, I think Phinks is a pretty solid contender against Hisoka. That said, there's one main reason I can't put him in the highest tier. See, like I said before, a simple and straightforward melee attacker is just about the absolute last person you want to be if you're fighting Hisoka. That is where Hisoka thrives, and it's just not a great matchup for Phinks, so that's why I've got to put him in the 0.8 tier. Shizuku, let's be real, girl stands negative chance. At least, at the very least, Bonolenov can potentially be valuable if other people distract Hisoka while he dances to charge up an ability. But what the hell is Shizuku supposed to do? Her weapon is an enormous vacuum cleaner, which is a massive, impossible to miss target for bungee gum. And it can't even suck up said bungee gum because it doesn't work on anything made of Nen. Yup, Shizuku is truly useless against Hisoka. Also, I have a crackpot theory that the fight between Shizuku and Pike was a piece of diabolical foreshadowing by Togashi. See, Pike's ability is pretty similar to Hisoka's, and their fight has very sexual undertones, just like any fight with Hisoka would. Shizuku beats him by using Blinky to suck out all his blood. Then she realizes, hey, you could have just used your web to cover your wounds, I guess we're both stupid. Well, here's my wild prediction of the day. Hisoka's gonna find Shizuku, Their fight will go pretty much the same as Shizuku versus Pike, except Hisoka actually uses bungee gum to do what Pike should have done because Hisoka is smart. Shizuku will think, wow, that spider really was stupid, and then Hisoka kills her. I think it would be, how do I put this? The most Shizuku way imaginable to die. Anyway, the point is, even her secret weapon of sucking out all the enemy's blood won't work on Hisoka, so she truly has nothing for Pennywise the Gooning Clown in store. On the exact opposite end of the spectrum, I think Illumi's got one of the best chances against Hisoka out of anybody. See, I absolutely think Hisoka's bungee gum could stop Illumi's needles and render his main weapon useless. However, that's not going to stop Illumi. We've seen from the election arc, and how he handled the Killua and Aluka situation, that he's adept at using the needles to hunt his targets from a distance and set lethal traps for them. In fact, he only got close to Killua as a desperate last-ditch effort to intimidate him into submission with his personage once Killua was dangerously close to reaching safety. And before you go, wow, Killua was running away, and Illumi was actually chasing him the entire time, and this was just the moment he caught up. Nuh-uh, Illumi knew exactly where Killua was going to be from the start, yet he chose to find Hisoka while Killua was at the Zoldyck estate instead of waiting like anywhere near the mansion to bush camp him. See, unlike Yuta Okotsu, Illumi genuinely prefers to fight serious opponents from a distance, and honestly, that's probably why Illumi is down on Tier 3 despite having a VVIP ticket and knowing he'll find Hisoka on Tier 1. Tier 1 is full of very important people, and people will notice if they start getting needled, but with everything going to shit on the lower tiers, the soldiers won't pull out any stops to track down some of the unwashed masses who are acting erratically. It's the perfect way for Illumi to amass an army of needle people to set up some diabolical death trap for Hisoka. Plus, I'm willing to bet Illumi understands Hisoka way better than Hisoka understands him. Hisoka's entirely selfish and doesn't strive to understand other people while putting his personality on full display for Illumi to see. I think if there's anyone who can set up a fiendish murder machine with no way out, some kind of killer death trap, Home Alone style, and replicate Chrollo's performance at Heaven's Arena, it has to be Illumi. Okay, I'm not going to record it, but I do want you guys to know that I was very tired while writing this section of the script and did a whole paragraph on Pakunoda before I remembered, wait, she's fucking dead. Anyway, let's talk about Kaluto. On its own, Snake Dance is not that bad against Hisoka, I think. It's an attack from a distance that's relatively quick to charge and launches such an enormous quantity of paper that it might actually cut through bungee gum or clog it up and make it unusable if angled carefully. However, Kaluto is a child, with a child's physique and a child's brain. I do not trust them to properly strategize against Hisoka, for starters, and Hisoka's adult acrobatic physique is probably just too much in terms of raw stats. Still, I think with another spider to assist, Kaluto could put in some work against Hisoka, like Bonolenov, but slightly better, so he goes in this tier. And now we talk about Chrollo. I feel like this one goes without saying, but I think it's dead even between him and Hisoka. Yes, Chrollo dominated last time, but he did so with a perfect plan. Hisoka let him choose the time and place, and he no longer has access to the same abilities, and on top of all that, he's made it clear that he's not exactly playing the same game of tag this time. If he sees Hisoka, it's on sight. So really, it's hard to say because Chrollo could have anything in that book of his, but honestly speaking, there's just no way Chrollo has worse odds at taking down Hisoka than Illumi or Franklin. And last but not least, Machi. Now in fairness, Machi's last showing against Hisoka was anything but impressive. I mean, she got covered head to toe in bungee gum before she was even able to do literally anything. However, that wasn't fair because her guard was down and Hisoka was absolutely not able to do that before. We agree this is crazy, right? Just complete instant immobilization? And people really say he's not more powerful after reviving. But with Machi on much higher alert, I think she can maybe do something. Plus, she's best equipped to understand his strategy. Both are transmuters that use strings to immobilize people and heavily employ Een to hide their auras. Plus, she's practically psychic with her hunches, or at the very least has incredible intuition. That said, without having really seen how she actually fights against a serious opponent, it's quite hard to say what her chances are. But as it stands, I feel she just lacks the oomph, the panache, the punch to put down Hisoka for good. I mean, what's she gonna do? Put the thread around his neck and suffocate him? Yeah, because that worked so well last time. Still, I think with the right teammate, Machi stands a decent chance against Hisoka. It's a shame she decided to go off by herself and do who knows what instead of being plot relevant with her buddies. I mean, you have no idea how many times I've turned over the phrase standard passenger cabin in my brain over the last 6 years. I can't even blame Togashi since he's made it clear he can't control his own characters, so instead I ask, why, Machi? Why? What is your fucking problem, girl? Anyway, that about does it for my appraisal of how the spiders would actually do if they ran into Hisoka. As you can see, most of them need a teammate to even have a chance against the guy, which is going to be a bit of a problem seeing as these morons won't fucking stop splitting up. God, Togashi really wasn't lying in that interview. They're all gonna die. Anyway, I've been CJ from Suck War Central. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a wonderful day.